So Carrie, you have been a presenter to our organization several times, and we're looking forward to your presentation today. So please take over.
All right, well, thank you, and thanks for having me back. It's kind of a different world we're living in right now, having to do everything virtually, but this is becoming commonplace. This is my third one of these that I'm doing today. So we're doing a lot of these online virtual meetings. So what I'd like to do is to talk about some of the threats that we're seeing now, a lot of the scams that are out there, and then open it up for questions. And of course, you know me, if you don't have any questions, there's plenty of content that we can talk about. But like they said before, if you need to ask a question, just on the right-hand side, click to raise your hand, and that way you will be able to be unmuted, so that way you can ask your question. So a couple of things I want to go over. There are a lot of COVID-19 scams going around right now. People are buying test kits online because they can't get a test through their doctor, so they're trying to do it on their own.
Blocked the meeting, so it's unlocked now.
So anyways, they're trying to order test kits on their own, and unfortunately a lot of these things are coming out of China. They're completely fake. They don't do anything. Department of Homeland Security has confiscated a lot of these products as they're coming into the country, so don't waste your money on them. Another thing is fake masks. Only buy the masks, especially the N95 masks, from legitimate sources. If you try buying it on eBay or Alibaba or any of these other type of websites, you need to know who you're dealing with, because they could say that it's an N95 mask, but it might not offer you the same protection as one. So again, be very careful with those. Treatments, there's a lot of talk out there about certain types of pharmaceuticals that can be used to prevent it or to treat it. And so people are trying to get their prescriptions. The doctors are not writing them, or the pharmacies aren't distributing them. So people are going online and trying to buy them. Be very careful buying pharmaceuticals online. You have no idea what's in the tablets. You have no idea what you're taking. They could be old, expired, and not have any potency at all. So just be very, very careful with trying to do any of this stuff online. Only go with reputable sources. Other things we're finding too is with the economic impact program, the checks that the government is sending to people. What we're finding, there are scammers out there that are trying to intercept it or trying to to get your money. First red flag is that if you get a phone call from someone claiming to be from the federal government, saying that they have to validate your identity before you get your check, or you did get your check but there's a problem. The big red flag is if anyone refers to it as a stimulus payment. The federal government will not call it a stimulus payment. It's an economic impact program payment. So that's a big red flag. So if you get an email and they're saying this is the federal government or pretends to be from the IRS, and they're asking you to verify if you received your check, and they want you to click on a link where you have to enter in your social and your bank account information, don't do any of that. They are not going to contact you. If you get the payment, you get the payment. They're not going to reach out to you after the fact. I know that there's a website out there that you could go to. It's the IRS's website. There's actually two of them. One of them is if you haven't received your payment yet, you can enter your information and find out when you should expect to see your payment. But that site has been overloaded for, well, since day one, since it was available. So you may or may not be able to utilize that. The other thing is if you don't normally file a tax return, there is a site that you can go to, an IRS website or a section of the IRS website where you can enter in your information to try to get some of this economic impact program fee or payments. Again, any of this stuff should be directly through the IRS website. So make sure when you're looking at the URL, it starts off with irs.gov, that's G-O-V, and then the rest of the URL. So just be very, very careful, especially if you do an internet search for where do I get my stimulus money, or how do I check the status of it. Bad guys have already created bogus websites to try to get you to enter your information. So be very careful with those. A lot of times, and I'm sure you've all gone through this before, is with the video conferencing. We're seeing a lot of Zoom bombing, a new term that was never around until all this happened. And you all are doing a great job with your meeting, make sure that it's locked and it's secured. Same thing. If you're talking with friends and family and you're using things such as, and not just Zoom, it's any of the video conferencing platforms. Just unfortunately, Zoom has been the poster child for everything not to do. Make sure you're adjusting the privacy settings, just like with anything else you're using, any other apps you're using. Try to make it as secure as possible. Don't post your meeting ID number on social media. Make sure you require a password, and make sure you open the waiting room so you can admit people one by one to your Zoom meeting. If you're going to take a screenshot of showing everyone who's participating, make sure your meeting ID number is not in the top left corner. That's what was happening initially. And so, people were posting a screenshot of all their friends and family having these Zoom happy hours, not realizing that the next time they had one, they were being Zoom bombed because they were publicly posting their meeting ID number. So just be careful if you're going to use any of these tools. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for some questions. Give a few minutes here and see if there are any raised hands. If not, then we can just keep talking about things. Okay, I see one here. Okay, looks like, yeah, Scott, are you there? You got a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you've
Great.
been unmuted.
Does FaceTime offer a similar feature as Zoom with a waiting room?
That I'm not positive of, but I believe with FaceTime, you can't have as many participants as you can with Zoom. That gets a little bit more into the nitty gritty of the FaceTime itself, which I'm sure there may be some other people on here that are more qualified to answer that. But Zoom does have a lot more of the extra features that FaceTime doesn't do. I mean, I know you can have a few participants, but you can't probably do up to 100 of them. Again, there might be some other people on here that could better answer that question for you.
You can have up to about 34 people on a FaceTime group call.
Okay. Yeah, the thing with that, everybody has to have FaceTime or have the ability to have access to it, where Zoom's a little bit more universal, or even there's Microsoft Teams. I mean, there's so many of these programs out there that you could use. But I don't know. I don't believe that FaceTime has anything like a waiting room, because I think it's just like when you're calling, as soon as the answer, you all are talking, but I could be wrong on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't see any other questions.
Okay, all right. So we'll keep talking about some other things. And if you have a question at any time, just raise your hand and we'll make sure that we get it addressed. I've mentioned this before. You've heard me say it every time I've come to present at your group. A credit freeze still is your best defense against new account fraud. We are starting to see, more activity because the bad guys are just like everybody else. As you hear all the business gurus, and they're saying, be persistent, now's not the time to back down. You need to pivot your business and, for business owners so that they can continue to stay in business after this has occurred. Bad guys are doing the same thing. They're looking for new ways, new rules, new techniques, new ways to get between you and your money and you and your information. So you still need to be on your guard. I would say be even more diligent now that you've been than you've been in the past. A lot of loopholes and vulnerabilities and all the different types of tools we're using online are coming out because, again, bad guys are looking for different ways to get between you and your information. So if you've not put a credit freeze in place, go ahead and do it. And you want to contact, again, we're still talking about 5 credit bureaus. So there's Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, Innovis, and NCTUE. If you want the contact information for them or the instructions of how to do it, just shoot me an email and I'll send over our tip sheet. But definitely put that credit freeze on. Do not try to do it by phone, meaning speaking to a representative, because right now all the credit bureaus are working with skeleton crews. So I had a client who is an identity theft victim, and we waited on hold for over 45 minutes yesterday, and we still didn't get a human. So try to do as much of this as you can online or use their automated phone services as possible. And I see Alan and Barbara have a question.
Yes, Carrie, could you just say again the correct name of the program? You said not the stimulus, but economic what?
Yeah, it's the Economic Impact Program.
Thank you.
That's the formal name for it. Did you have any other questions on that?
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Sure, you're very welcome. The other thing we're seeing, again, the phone scams, we talked about some of the COVID-19 ones, but bad guys are still out there scamming. They know that people are at home. The emails, we're still seeing a lot of phishing email scams, especially with remote workers. They are a huge target right now. They're getting emails that look like it's from a coworker saying, hey, I need you to send this, or hey, I need you to approve this, and there's a link in it, and people are clicking on it. The wire transfer scam emails are still going around because people are still involved, trying to do day-to-day business or even in real estate transactions. So if you get an email that has wire transfer instructions, call the organization. If it's a title company, whomever it is that's requesting you to wire the money, call them and just verbally confirm the instructions before you send the money. If you send the money and it's to the wrong place, if it's been more than 48 hours, that money is gone and you are not going to get it back. Usually we can try to work with FBI to try to recover the funds if we're notified in less than 48 hours. Not always a promise, but usually that 48-hour window is kind of a sweet spot. But after that time frame, the money is gone. And the phone number that you would call, don't call the phone number that's in the email because that could be the bad guys. So call the phone number for the contacts you have. Maybe you'd gotten in a previous email, or just go to the internet and look up that organization's website and call them directly. Looks like Mitchell has a question.
Yes, I have a couple. Thank you. I've done the credit freeze and I've taken them off, and that's sort of a pain because you have to go to each one. Is there anything in the works that you'll be able to just call one and they'll notify all the others like they do with the fraud alert?
No, I haven't heard anything about that. But here's a trick. The creditor that you're going to be applying for credit, or the person who's asking to see the report, ask them first if they know which bureau they're going to pull it from. Explain to them that you have a credit report or that you have a credit freeze in place. More and more organizations are now able to tell you which credit bureau they're pulling the report from. So then you only have to lift it with that one bureau.
Yeah, that's part of my next question. I want to apply for the Apple credit card. My scores are north of 800. I asked which one they use. It was Trans-American. So I took it off. I took it off all three of the major ones. That's all I had it on. They keep sending me emails that you have a credit freeze on and we can't do anything until it's lifted. I assume that is Goldman Sachs' problem because it's off. I mean, when I've taken it off with, like, when I went in to get a car, I took it off and they had no problem.
Yeah, I believe it's probably their underwriter, whoever the actual financial institution who's backing the Apple card. Yeah, it's probably an issue with them. Now, when you did the lift, did you unthaw it, meaning permanently lift it, or did you do it for only a specific number of days?
I did it both because I was frustrated. I wanted the card. I've given up on trying to get the card. I've tried several times in the past. And then when I tried, the other thing that happened to me is, I believe it was with Experian. When I went to reactivate my freeze, I made a mistake or something, and it was something they didn't like. And all of a sudden they wanted me to mail in
Right.
a whole bunch of stuff. And I just said, you know what, I'm not doing this. Is there a time, and I haven't gone back in there in a couple of months, is there a time limit where that'll just drop off and I'll be able to do it again online?
Yeah, so what we're seeing, because the credit bureaus are down to a skeleton crew, meaning actual humans to speak with, more and more people are using the online resources, which is overloading their system. So we are seeing a lot of that same message that you saw, saying we can't do it online, you have to send us all this proof of who you are. It doesn't mean that you entered something wrong. It could just be that their back end was overloaded and they weren't able to process the request. So what I would recommend is use their automated phone service. There's a phone number, and if it gives, shoot me an email, I'll send you the phone number. I don't have it here in front of me right now, but you can just call and use the automated phone service, and all they'll do is they'll ask you to punch in your social security number, your date of birth, and your numeric street address. They may ask for one or two other things, but it's just you enter everything into the keypad, and then you can initiate the freeze. So it's really easy to do. It takes maybe 5 minutes if you do it using their automated phone service.
So that's very similar to the fraud alert, which is you can do and just call one service and they notify all the others.
Right, but the only reason that works is because that was mandated by federal law.
It used to be that you could call, and I believe you used to be able to just call and they would all, if you wanted to deactivate it, they'd all take it off. Now I found out when you want to deactivate it on the fraud alert that you have to call each one individually.
Right, because the federal law only mandates that if you want to initiate the fraud alert, because this was started back in early days when there was when they realized identity theft was becoming such an epidemic. So the federal government put the law in place to protect consumers, giving you the right. Back then it was a 90-day fraud alert. Now it's a 365-day, so it's a 1-year fraud alert. They only mandated that to make it easy, you would call one bureau, they'd notify the other 2 on your behalf, but they still do not participate with Innovis or NCTUE. Those you have to contact directly. So there are actually dozens of credit bureaus out there. We're primarily seeing activity on 5 of them, but the federal government, the federal law only addresses the big 3. They don't have mandates for the other ones, except for the credit freeze. If you're a credit bureau, you have to allow someone to freeze their credit report or their consumer report. That is covered. But as far as with a fraud alert, to me, it's not worth the time and the energy. It really doesn't offer much protection. We see people with a fraud alert still having fraudulent account open. So your credit freeze is the way to go. If you can't do it, then at a bare minimum, do a fraud alert.
On the freeze, how exposed are you if you only do it with the major 3?
Well, like I said, we're seeing more activity on the other 2, primarily NCTUE, it's National Consumer Telecom Utilities Exchange. And how we first discover them is we have people where we will manage their freeze for them. And we had put a freeze in place with the big 3, and then mobile phone accounts were being opened. And we called one of the mobile phone companies and said, how did you open this account? Because they have a credit freeze in place, so you shouldn't have been able to review their credit report. And they said, we don't use them, we use NCTUE. That's how we found out about them. So if you only work with the big 3, then you're leaving yourself wide open to have utilities fraud, meaning someone can take out a mobile phone account, they can buy a mobile phone on a payment plan, they can set up, power, water, any other type of utilities, cable, all using your identity, because majority of the utilities industry no longer uses the big 3, they're only using NCTUE. So that's why it's crucial that you do it with the big 3, NCTUE. Innovis is a newer credit bureau, but we're starting to see more activity. And I think maybe some of that is because if a creditor wants to pull a credit report, they are charged fees. So it could be that maybe Innovis is not charging as high of fees as other organizations. I don't know for sure, but we're starting to see a lot more activity on Innovis as well.
One final question. Are all these identified on your cheat sheet if we mail and ask you for that?
Yes, we do have all of them available on the tip sheet. Also a little plug to help everyone right now. We have launched a 30-day privacy challenge. It is free right now. We're going to have it free probably through the month of April. Through the month of May to allow people to participate. And every day it's about a 10-minute project. So every day you get an email about here's a threat. Here's how it impacts you. Here's how you can protect yourself. And then we provide step-by-step instructions of what you need to do. Most of them takes about 10 minutes or less. A couple of them might take a little bit more, like putting a credit freeze or getting your credit reports. But if it's going to take longer, right in it, we tell you exactly how much time it's going to take. So at the end of 30 days, you've put a lot of things in place to protect yourself from identity theft, fraud, and cyber threats. And if you're interested, you just go to griffinforceacademy.com and sign up. Again, it's free. I'll send the tip sheet again out either to Eckert or to George, and then that way they can make sure that everyone gets a copy of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see James Gorska, you have a question?
Can you hear me?
I sure can. Go right ahead.
Sorry if you covered these already, Carrie, because I had trouble getting in the meeting, but I have 2 unrelated things.
Okay.
Number 1, I've had my stimulus money for almost 2 weeks, and no one else in my family has received theirs. And there's a speculation that I received it because I filed my taxes early. Is there any truth to that?
As far as the truth to it and the actual facts, I have no idea. It depends, you know, the IRS, the federal government, they have their own process of how they're doing it. There is speculation that if you did file early, they were able to confirm how much you were entitled to receive. So those would be sent out earlier. And they also have your current bank account information. So I know that, you know, that's a problem with some people, that they might have filed last year and got a refund. Well, the bank account information they used last year, they might not have that same current information. So that's why there could be a delay. So I believe that everyone who's already filed for 2019 are probably going to get their funds earlier than people who have yet to still file for the year. But again, that's speculation. I don't have any proof on that one.
Well, mine had both of those pieces of information on it. I had filed early and I had my up-to-date banking information.
Okay.
My other question / comment, when I joined the meeting, you were just talking about Zoom, and I just want to relate an experience I just had with Zoom. I recorded a play with a friend of mine from Bonita Springs online, and then when he posted it on YouTube, it was very, very jerky. The video was awful in the recording, and I suggested to him that we had probably done the Zoom meeting during prime time, that is between like 11 a.m. and 11 p.m., and that maybe we'd have more success if we recorded it outside of prime time. So if you're having trouble with a Zoom meeting, I suggest you move it either to very early in the morning or very late at night, which may not be possible in some cases, but it worked for us. And now the recording was very, very, very pristine. So just a suggestion to those who use Zoom.
Can anybody hear me now?
We can hear you. Can I add something before you talk, George? It relates to what James was saying about the stimulus check. I also heard that if you have direct deposit, that you would get your stimulus check earlier. And that was the case for my husband and I. So that may be inside that criteria of why some people got their stimulus check early and some people haven't.
Right, yeah, because they're trying to get those taken care of first, the people who have already filed, and if you already had direct deposit, and then they're going to start mailing out checks. They may have already started mailing them, but I know that they're trying to do the direct deposits first. And same with my family and friends, if they had already filed for 2019 and they'd used direct deposit to either to pay last year or to get their refund last year, you know, they're already starting to get theirs. And people who have yet to file their tax return, or if they didn't have that information, or if they did by check, they haven't received theirs yet. So there are a lot of different things involved with that. Okay, let's see who else. Michael, you had a question?
What happened to me?
Oh, I don't see your hand raised, George. Sorry, I missed you.
All right, let me just say a few words. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank Carrie. I really appreciate the fact that you're here, and Carrie's here for the 4th time. Back to Jim's question. Jim, was the video bad when did you view the video in the cloud before you moved it to YouTube?
Oh, Jim, you're on mute.
Can somebody unmute?
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, okay. I didn't control where it was recorded or the posting. The other guy did it. I was basically attending as a Zoom member. So
Okay.
I have no answer to your question.
Okay, our experience is that we record it on the Zoom cloud, and we can do that because we have a paid for it. It's like $15 a month, and we are the cloud's available. Also, when you move it to YouTube, when you transfer it to YouTube, sometimes it takes a few hours for YouTube to process it to a much better level of looking at it. So we find that like within 2 to 3 hours, the video is greatly improved.
Okay.
It takes a while. Anyway, yeah, let me know if you guys have any problems. The best way to record it though, if they have that $15 paid account and recorded it on the Zoom cloud.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, so let's go back. I'm just looking in the chat. So people asked for the contacts again. I will make sure and get that information to Eckert and George so they can get it to you. And let's go back to the raised hands. So I see, let's see, Michael, did you still have a question there?
Alan and Barbara were next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alan and Barbara?
Actually, a comment and 2 questions. About the stimulus money, I get my Social Security and my retirement pension directly deposited, and I got my stimulus money way back, quite a while ago, without ever filing my income tax for 2019. So I didn't need to file my income tax to be one of the first people that got the $1,200. So that's, I mean, just adds more information to that thread. Second, I have never done anything with asking for or blocking my credit rating. So I think I know my credit rating, but I've never asked for it and I've never blocked it. Do I have to do something to block it, or if I never asked for it, is it de facto blocked?
Okay, so your credit rating and your credit report and new account fraud are kind of 3 different things. So your credit rating or your credit score is the number that creditors use to determine if they want to allow you to get new credit, okay? If you haven't looked at your credit score, to me, for monitoring for identity theft, your credit score is irrelevant. I've worked with people whose scores increased when they were a victim. So the only way to know if you already have been a victim is to actually look at your credit report. If you haven't looked at your credit reports from all 5 bureaus in the last 1 to 2 years, I highly recommend you get them and look at them, because again, most people find out they're a victim of identity theft because they actually looked at the credit reports themselves. Don't rely on the score. You need to look at the full reports. Just because you are not using your credit, meaning you aren't looking at your credit score and you're not looking at your credit reports, doesn't mean you still can't be a victim. What the bad guys will do is they will use your information to apply for new credit accounts. If you have great credit and it's wide open, meaning you do not have a credit freeze put in place, the bad guy is going to be pretty successful and be able to open those fraudulent accounts. They then go up and run up the bill. They don't pay the bill, and then collection, agencies start coming after you for payment. So I definitely would recommend putting a freeze in place.
If I put a freeze in place, I mean, that doesn't affect my ability to use my credit card or my other.
Not at all. Nope. No, it has no impact on your current credit accounts. The only thing that it impacts is new credit accounts. So if you're going to apply for a new credit account, or if you're going to switch a utilities company like a mobile phone company from one to another, they have to pull credit reports because their service is deemed a credit service. But if you've got all the credit you've ever wanted and you're not going to be, changing any of your utility accounts, yeah, put a credit freeze in place. That's your best defense against new account fraud.
Okay, I don't want to dominate this, but if I put a credit freeze in and then somehow or other I change my utility provider or something like that, then I have to unfreeze it and then freeze it again? I mean, is that what I have to do, or what happens when somebody checks me out when it's frozen?
Yeah, so before you would apply for that new credit, you would ask that company which bureau they're going to pull the report from. And if they know, you just contact that one bureau and do a temporary lift. You can do it for 1 day, for 10 days, 30 days, 75 days, however long you want. And once that time frame is expired, the freeze will go right back in place. It's really easy to do. You can use the automated phone service. You can choose, or you can do it online. I don't recommend doing these things by mail because it does add a lot of time. And what we're finding is, unless you're sending the mail certified return receipt requested, the credit bureaus are pretending that they never received your letter. So either do it by using the automated phone service or online. And again, when I send the tip sheet out, it'll have all the information of how to do that, and also how to get your credit reports.
Okay, third question. A while back, I went to Google and I Googled my bank because I didn't remember the telephone number. And the Google came up, and I dialed the telephone number that the address came up with, and lo and behold, it was not the bank. The answer
Right.
on the phone, people asked me questions that the bank should have known. So that made me suspect that I really didn't get the bank. So if
Well,
you Google somebody, how do you know whether you're really getting to somebody you really thought you were Googling?
So when you do a Google search for contact information for an organization, it'll start bringing up a bunch of different results, and one of them will just be just a phone number. I don't go to just the phone number. I go to that organization's website and look for it on the website. Now, because you called them and they started asking you a bunch of questions that you said your bank should already know about you, most banks will ask you questions like that because they want to make sure that you are you. You're just a voice on the phone. They have no idea that if it's you or if it's me pretending to be you. Well, it'd be a little obvious if I was trying to pretend to be you. But anyways, all the banks, all the financial institutions, to protect your accounts, they all are starting to ask you to verify either a social security number, your bank account information, your date of birth, your street address, your zip code, your PIN number, security questions. This is all for your protection. So I don't know if you called your bank or not, but just the fact that they asked you questions that you think the bank should know, it could have been your bank, but they were just trying to verify it's you. Again, without knowing exactly what number you called, it's hard to say. But if you're doing a Google search or any type of internet search for a phone number for an organization, go to that organization's website. Here's another tip. If you try to do a Google search for a phone number for Google, you're going to get a phone number popping up, but it's not Google. Google does not have a published phone number for anyone to call them on. So again, bad guys can pay for these things because they pay for ads and they pay for SSL certificates. So on the websites, it has the green padlock, it's HTTPS. Bad guys can pay for all this stuff just like any legitimate businesses can. So make sure you're going to that organization's website and only use the content off their websites, not what pops up in the top few things of a Google search.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I jump in for a second? Can I jump in for a second? We have a question in the chat from Marilyn, and Marilyn says that my identity was stolen by having my mail forwarded without my knowledge. Carrie, you might want to speak to that.
Yeah, mail forwarding, we started seeing this right after Hurricane Irma. That's when it was very prevalent in Collier County and actually throughout all of Florida. It's real easy for bad guys to do. All they have to do is walk into any post office nationwide and fill out a change of an address card, turn it in, and now your mail's going to them. It really is that easy. They don't have to show proof of ID or anything. We have my dogs in the background. There must be someone at the front door. But anyways, to protect yourself, you can set up a online account with the United States Postal Service. It's usps.gov.com. I forget. Some of them use the .com, some of them don't, but I'll make sure and get you the correct web address. But you can set up an online account with the Postal Service. Once you've created an online account, you can activate informed delivery. So what informed delivery does is that it sends you an email every day with a snapshot, an image of what you're going to be receiving in your mailbox. Now, it only does it for first-class mail. It won't do it for junk mail, magazines, that sort of thing. But it allows you to monitor if somebody's trying to steal mail out of your mailbox, because if you're supposed to get 6 pieces of mail and there's only 5, now granted, give it about a 2-day grace period, because it might say it's coming today, but it'll actually show up tomorrow. If it hasn't come by the 2nd day, contact the post office because someone might have stolen it out of your mailbox. If you have informed delivery and somebody tries to mail forward, meaning setting up the mail forwarding, your informed delivery will be temporarily suspended. So you're going to get an email saying, we've temporarily suspended your informed delivery because of a change of an address request. What the post office does is that they will send a physical letter by mail to your address, meaning the old one, and the fraudulent one, the new one. And in there will be a code. When you get that letter, you log into your postal account online, you enter that code, and it cancels out the change of address request or the forwarding, because you're the only one who has the online account set up. So you're the only one who can properly enter the code. So you're verifying, no, I did not do that. So signing up with an online account with the Postal Service is a great tool to use to protect yourself from mail theft.
Which is what I have now. Yesterday, I had to change my thing.
Okay, any other questions? Let's see. I think Carl's been waiting a while. Am I seeing these out of order here? I don't want to call the wrong people.
Michael is next.
Okay, sorry. Michael, go right ahead.
Yes, a few questions, please. One has to do with credit cards, and the other one has to do with credit reports and freezing them up. So, I don't know what your feeling is about LifeLock, but I have Norton Security, and LifeLock came with it, and I use LifeLock. And every time there's somebody who wants to check on my credit, I almost immediately get a message from LifeLock to say, was this you, and is this did you sign on for that? Which is much faster than waiting until someone's already filed a change to my credit. So
Well,
I was wondering.
here's the problem with LifeLock. I am not a fan, and those of you who've heard me speak prior, you've heard me say this before. They are one of the biggest legal scams out there. The reason I say this is because they make you think when you sign up for them, you'll never be a victim of identity theft. That's not true. They make you think that if you sign up for them and you have a problem, they will fix it for you. That's not true. How do I know? Because their subscribers call me to fix the problem because LifeLock doesn't do it. Anytime we're working with an identity theft victim, first question I always ask is, are you paying for a service? And anyone who has had LifeLock said that when they called LifeLock, they were told that's not included in your plan. Or they just did basic where they just initiated the phone call and then let the victim do all the talking. Well, you don't know what to say. You don't know what your rights are. You've never been in this situation before. So usually LifeLock subscribers spend about 3 months trying to recover on their own before they call us, and we fix it in a matter of a couple of weeks. So I am not a fan of LifeLock at all. As far as with the credit monitoring, yes, you do get the alerts, but that's reactionary. That means someone has already tried to apply and change something. Did they stop it? Probably not. A credit freeze will stop it, because what a credit freeze does is that it prevents the new creditor from seeing your report. If they can't see your report, they can't make a financial decision. The account will never be opened. With credit monitoring, you're being alerted that there was an inquiry, but that account may or may not have successfully been opened. So there is no prevention with credit monitoring. It's all reactionary. They tell you after the fact. So if you really want to protect yourself, just put a credit freeze in place and stop wasting your money paying for these services.
Likewise, I understand that LifeLock also, because I've used it once way in the past, will put freezes on all of your accounts to the major creditors, and they'll do that with one telephone call.
No, that is a fraud alert, not a credit freeze.
Right.
In order for you to put a credit freeze, you have to initiate it directly with every credit bureau. LifeLock only focuses on the big 3. There are 5 that you need to address. And actually there are, like I said, there are dozens of credit bureaus out there, but the LifeLocks and all the other companies like them, they only focus on the big 3 because those are the only ones that they have agreements with. They never tell you about the other bureaus, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the activity.
Okay, next question. What about Title Lock?
Title Lock, again, I think it's a waste of money. Here in Collier County, through the Clerk of Court's office, you can sign up. If you go to the website, I think it's collierclerk.com. If you go to their website, there is a program. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the program, but basically you can register for free. And anytime if there's a change to any public record in Collier County with your name on it, you'll be notified. You'll get an email. So if someone tries to do a quitclaim deed or any other type of record or make any changes, you can get notified. So there's no need to pay for this insurance or whatever, because it's all available for free. And when I worked with Senator Pasadomo back in 2015, we strengthened Florida's identity theft laws, primarily giving victims the right to correct a public record, where prior to then you were not able to, or if you did, it was extremely difficult. So if you did have, title fraud, meaning somebody filed a quitclaim deed, it was very difficult to fix. Not anymore, because we improved the law. So you have better rights, easier chance to fix it, and you can sign up through the Clerk of Court's office website for free, and that way you can receive notifications.
Last question. So regarding a credit card, I had somebody at a gas station use my credit card in a different city from where I was even located. I don't know if this is good or bad, but I use American Express, and they before anything even happened, they knew already that something was amiss because I don't live where that card was used. So they immediately asked me, was this you? And they already put a hold on it before I even answered them. So as opposed to going through all of the machinations of trying to put freezes on things, I find it from CitiCard, American Express, and all of that have those services automatically installed, and their software is pretty quick.
So what you're talking about are actually two different things.
Right.
So you put a credit freeze to prevent someone from opening a new credit account using
Correct.
your identity. Not
Right.
using a credit freeze has nothing to do with your current credit cards or your home equity line or anything like that.
I agree.
Yeah, credit card skimmers are everywhere. You
Right.
are not going to, there's no way to stop being a victim of a credit card skimmer. It's inevitable. If it hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to happen. Your best defense is monitor your transactions. Yes, all the credit card companies and the banks, they all have these fraud prevention tools put in place where they look for anomalies. So if you primarily are doing everything in Naples, Florida, and all of a sudden a charge pops up from Atlanta, Georgia, especially 2 minutes after you just did something in Naples, Florida, they detect it and they get a hold of you. The reason why they do that, it's not necessarily for your benefit, it's for their benefit.
Right.
Because you have zero liability for fraudulent transactions on your credit card or bank accounts as long as you report it within 30 to 60 days from the date of the transaction. So they want to detect it as soon as possible, and they want to stop it as soon as possible because they're the ones who ultimately could be out the money because you have zero liability. So that's why they're implementing all these tools and why they're doing it. And they are great. Take advantage of them. If you don't have monitoring tools for all of your bank accounts, brokerage accounts, credit card accounts, sign up for it. Set up the online accounts. Take advantage of the notifications and alerts. They're there to help you monitor. You can set up like American Express and a couple of the other ones. They have the card not present alert. So if I use my credit card to purchase something online, within 2 seconds of hitting the buy now button, I get a text message or an email alert saying, did you just do this? So they're all offering these tools because, again, if they want us to help them, determine what's real and what's not, because if they don't catch it right away and we don't catch it right away, well, if we report it to them, if it's been, 10 days later, we report it, it's within that 30 to 60 day window. We have zero liability. Now it's the onus on the bank. So they're trying to protect their bottom line by offering these tools. But yeah, they're all great. All the credit card companies do it. But again, you still have a responsibility of reconciling your statements. If you don't reconcile your statements, bank, credit card, everything, then you could have a problem. There are some times that things get missed where it looks like it's normal for you. The bank misses it. You're not looking at your statement. And then a year later, when you're going to do your tax return, you're going, hey, wait a minute, this wasn't my charge. Too bad. You have 30 to 60 days to report it. So if you're not reconciling your statements, you could be missing things that the bank's missing or credit card company's missing, and then it will be your liability. So make sure you still look at your transactions. For me personally, for every financial account that I have the apps on my phone. And when I wake up in the morning, I look at all the accounts and look at all the transactions, and I do the same thing at night before I go to bed. Because the sooner you detect it and report it, the faster you're going to be made whole.
And then lastly, the other thing that I found useful, and I was wondering your feelings about that. I had a fraudulent air conditioning vendor trying to bilk me for money. And American Express not only stopped all of the future charges from occurring with that vendor, they blocked all of that, but they also immediately refunded any of the money that I thought I shouldn't have been paid for. And then I went to the DA, district attorney's office, and they smoothed things out for me and told me, don't worry about it.
Yeah, a lot of the credit card companies, because it's fraud. So they
Right.
do have fraud protection on there. I've been told American Express is a little bit more customer friendly than other ones, but they're to me, some are good at some things, some are good at others. But yeah, take advantage of those. That's why I know a lot of people that only use American Express, because if they have to dispute something, sometimes they have better luck with them. But you know, there are probably other cards out there that do the same thing. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to get your money back and that you reported it. That reminds me of another thing too, is anytime you're going to hire anyone to do any work, especially if they are in a regulated industry, meaning they have to be licensed and registered with the state, use the state's websites to validate if they are allowed to work, especially in construction. We've had so many calls from people who, you know, still trying to get Hurricane Irma repair work done. And some guy gave them a real lowball quote. You know, it was like half or a fraction of what everybody else was wanting to charge them. And they hired them, and then they took off with their money and they never got the work done, or their work was real shoddy and they didn't, you know, they weren't happy with it. And all they would have to have done is gone to the state's website and validate if the person was licensed or not. And in majority of these cases, I would say at least 90% of them, the person was not even licensed to do that work in the state of Florida. So, you know, do a little bit of homework before you hire someone. Just because they come highly recommended from a friend or neighbor or a relative, still do your homework. You know, make sure they're registered through the county, make sure they're registered through the state. Take their company name and do an internet search for, you know, the name of the business followed by scam or followed by complaints. You know, do your homework before you hire, because we've never had a time where we have access to so much information right at our fingertips. So instead of allowing the bad guys to use it all for bad, we can use it for good and try to help identify some of these scammers before we get involved with them.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yes.
We have a lot of questions coming in from hands raised and also from the chat.
Okay.
So I'd like to request everyone that you please ask just 1 or 2 questions going forward. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. Carl, you are being unmuted. You have the next question. Unmute.
Yes,
Okay,
my question is, my wife keeps getting a pop-up on her computer saying you are vulnerable to fake websites. Is that anything to worry about?
So she's getting a pop-up saying that she is what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Vulnerable to fake websites.
So is it saying that the website she's trying to go to is not a good website to go to, or is it just a regular pop-up? You know, when is she getting the pop-up? What is she doing?
When I just turn on the computer, I haven't gone anywhere. It's a pop-up.
Okay. Yeah, so you have malware on your machine. If the minute you turn it on, you're getting these pop-ups, you definitely need to get your machine checked out. You know, do you have a person that you work with who can come and check it out for you?
Yes, and the thing is, sometimes I go in, when I don't think it happens when I'm in Safari. I think it's when I happen to go into Firefox. So is that a possibility that one would have, you know, I have to notice whether that pop-up happens if I'm in Safari.
Okay. Yeah, just call your IT person, have them come out and take a look at it, because without looking at what the pop-up is and when you're getting it, it's really hard for me to give you an answer. But I would just have, you know, your person come out and just take a look at it and check it just to make sure. It could be, you know, like there's spyware, there's all kinds of like pop-up malware that you can get, all different types of things. And if you're saying you're only getting a Foxfire, it could be something that, you know, with using Foxfire, or it could be a pop-up. Maybe you have a security setting a little too high, and that's why you keep seeing it. So without physically seeing it, it's kind of hard to answer.
Okay, I have ran malware on it and it doesn't find anything.
Yeah, just because it doesn't find it doesn't mean it might not be some kind of a pop-up or something on there. So again, I would have somebody look at it so that way they can tell you exactly what it is. Because it could be, again, a privacy setting. Because I had that, I had my laptop that I use on a daily basis, my hard drive decided last week it didn't want to work anymore. So I had to go last minute and buy a new computer. Finally found one, because of course nobody has any available for sale right now. It's, you know, so I could continue to work and, you know, trying to get everything moved over and doing all the privacy settings, and I couldn't get my microphone to work. And it's because I made my privacy settings so high that it was turning off my microphone. So again, sometimes it could be something in a setting that, that could be causing it. So just have your IT guy take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay,
all right, Thomas, you're next. I'll unmute you. Okay, hold on, trying to unmute you. And for some reason, Thomas will not unmute. There you go. All right, go ahead.
You can hear me now?
We can
Yes.
hear you now.
Thank you kindly. Yes, I'm from Canada, so I realized the banking might be a little bit different. Woke up one morning and the bank said, was that you trying to sign into your account at 2:30 in the morning? No, it wasn't me. So we changed the username, changed the password, changed the questions. And then I went to Apple and they walked me through and I completely reformatted my, my iMac. And there were some partitions on there that obviously from the Catalina was new. And so I got everything back up and running. And this is a technical question. When I was reinstalling my software for my label writer, it asked for permission to write to my pre-boot record. And that's something that's new on the Catalina system. And I said okay, but my question is that okay to do that?
So that is a question for Dennis DiGiacomo when he comes and speaks to you all, I think in a few weeks here. Because my specialty is with identity theft, fraud, and cyber threats. I don't do the nitty-gritty technical computer or Mac work. So I would just table that question to when Dennis comes, or I'm sure there might be someone else in the group who could answer that.
I can
And one
quickly
question.
answer. I can quickly answer that. The answer is yes, it is okay.
Okay.
There you go.
And one more, my wife likes to go to craft fairs and uses an outfit called Square.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and as soon as she buys something, it shows up on my phone or because we've got instant feedback on anything on the credit card. Okay, I just like to point people out that she might be Susan's Knit City, but the company is abc.com because the name on what the company is and the name bills might be different. And what I always watch for is not the $4,000 ticket to Dubai. It's the one that's $3.80 that they use as a test to run through. And I thought I'd just point that out.
Yes, great information. Thank you.
Okay, Jerry, you are next.
Okay, I've some background. Number one, I filed my income taxes this year through TurboTax. The second background thing is my credit union changed their name in the last year. But when I went on to check my Corona deposit with the IRS thing, it said that they did not have my numbers from the credit union, but they had already deducted what I owed in my federal taxes for this year. So they did have it and they asked for it again. I put it in and now it says that I do qualify. But my question is, why would that have taken place?
Yeah, I can't answer that. That's more of an IRS federal government question. I don't know why they did that because I don't know the particular situation. So did you get the economic impact payment or not yet?
No, nothing.
Nothing. Okay. When you went to check on the status of it, did you go to the irs.gov website?
Yes.
Okay.
They asked for my deposit, the number
Right.
of the credit union and my account numbers and my address and how much I earned last year and if I had to pay federal taxes. And I answered all those. And then it finally came back a couple of days later that I was qualified, but they would let me know when it was available.
Okay. Yeah, I would give it some more time because there are a lot of people that haven't received anything yet. So I know it's going to be a process for they get it out, and especially if they just approved yours, it might take a little bit longer. So just keep an eye on it. If you start seeing on the news where they're announcing that the payments have pretty much all gone out and you should have received yours, and if you don't have anything, then I would follow back up with the IRS and check on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Alan and Barbara, did you have another question? I will unmute you. And
Let Barbara go first this time.
Okay. Since the COVID thing, this is my first experience. I had a false charge on MasterCard, and I called them to report the false charge. It was under $50, but I don't want to pay it. and I tried 3 times, including at odd hours, and they simply would not accept the call. They said, you know, our volume of calls is too great, and they kicked me off. So I wondered if you had any suggestion, because this is my first experience during the heavy traffic that the COVID-19 problem has generated.
Yeah, so you have a couple of options. You can always dispute it in writing, you know, make a copy of the statement or wherever you saw it, circle it, and then just have a cover letter saying this is not my charge, I did not do this, you know, and just say I attempted to reach by phone to dispute this, but I, you know, was disconnected and, you know, whatever else. So that's one way you could do. If you have online access to that account, sometimes you can go right in and you can do the dispute right online through the online account. That's really one of the easiest ways to do it, because you can also track the progress of the dispute. Do you have internet access to that credit card account?
No, I haven't.
Okay, yeah, that might be something to consider doing, is just setting up the online access. And then that way you can go in and do the dispute right there. Otherwise, the option is to just do it by mail. If you are going to dispute by mail, I suggest that you mail a certified return receipt requested. That way you have proof of the date that they received that letter, because by law, they have 10 days to respond to you upon receipt of your disputing a fraudulent transaction.
The other question just related to that is, I earlier had a slightly larger false charge on the same card. And they said that the only way that I could get this $200 charge removed was having a new credit card and a new credit card number.
Right.
And so we were still in negotiations on that. Is that the case, that you have to allow them to send you a new credit card with a new number?
Yeah, absolutely. And you want them to, because if there's a fraudulent charge, that means that number's been compromised, and it's probably being sold on the dark web or even on the surface web to other bad guys to try to do more fraudulent charges. So the reason why the bank is saying they want to give you a new card and a new number, if you're refusing to do that, well, then you're putting the bank in jeopardy of losing more money as well, because we know it's already been exposed. So yes, go ahead and get a new account number, because that way you can cut off any additional fraud associated with that old number. You still have the same account, they're just changing the number that's on the card.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now I have a question on the other part of Alan and Barbara. I'm the Alan part.
Okay.
I appreciate your offer to get that service you mentioned for free for a month or two. If I subscribe to it, how many emails a day will I get from you?
You get 1 a day. When you first sign up, the first day you'll have 2 emails. The first one will be your welcome email, where you finish creating your account just by creating your password. And then the second one you'll receive is the welcome for the first day. And then after that, you get 1 email a day. That's it.
Okay, now I hope you really won't take this question offensively. It could be construed as disrespectful, and I don't mean it that way. But I understand you have a business related to fraud.
Yes.
But what I'm wondering is your estimate of the likelihood that of the 30 people online now, or the maybe 300 or so members of the MUG, how many of us normal, regular Joes are likely to be fraudulently misused?
Every 2 seconds, another American becomes a victim of identity theft. That is a
Yeah, but there are 350 million Americans in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, again, what are the odds that any one of us is really going to be attacked?
Your odds are huge. If I want to steal your identity, I go online. I don't have to go to the dark web. I go right to a Google search, and I can buy your name, address, date of birth, and social security number for 75 cents. I can do it for any American, and it's not just me. Anyone can go online and do this. So if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's either because you're not aware of it, or they just haven't gotten around to your name and your information. But you will be a victim. I've yet to see, I mean, we've seen all walks of life, all different demographics, ages, everywhere. We've seen all different types of people become victims of this. So if it hasn't happened to you, you're not home free. It will happen at some point in time. And you've already had some of it because you've had a credit card compromised. So, you know, you can't have it to everyone and anyone. But like I said, that because of technology and because of all the data breaches, there have been over 1 billion, I think we're over 2 billion records that have been exposed nationwide from all the data security breaches. So your information is already out there and it's available and it's only worth 75 cents. That's all it takes to
Is Congress, I mean, I know Congress is overwhelmed with bailout, money bailout, but have you heard any movement in Congress to try and do something about any of this?
The problem is that this changes so rapidly. Technology changes rapidly. So by the time something comes from being a bill to being a law, it's already outdated. That's the biggest problem. You know, and a lot of this stuff, it's not going to take Congress, because we do have laws in place. We have laws in place saying you can't commit murder, but there's still murderers out there. So approaching it legislatively, I don't think is the end all be all. One of the big problems we see is a lot of these large companies, the financial institutions, the banks, the credit card. So when you're a victim of identity theft, most of the time you do not have an out-of-pocket financial loss. You will be made whole because there are laws to protect you, okay? So the one who actually suffers the out-of-pocket loss are the financial institutions, but they often will not pursue going after these bad guys. So until the bad guys are pursued and brought to justice, with the laws we currently have in place, there's no point making more laws. There have been numerous cases where we have actually identified the identity thief, and we could not get anyone to do anything about it. We've tried FBI, we tried local, not meaning Collier County, this was over in Miami. We could not get anyone to do anything about it. So this is why you have drug cartels getting out of the drug business and getting into identity theft, because it's easier, less chance of getting caught, and if they do get caught, it's a slap on the wrist. And then we also have lack of jurisdiction because digital is global. So just because something happens to you here in Naples, Florida, the bad guy could be in you know, North Korea. He could be somewhere where we don't have extradition rights. There's nothing we can do about it. So that's the problem. And that's why this really is the perfect crime. And I don't see it going away anytime soon.
No more questions, Alan.
Correct. We're going on next to Mitch. Let's unmute. Okay, hold on. Unmute. For some reason, it doesn't want to unmute you, Mitch. Are you all right? Okay, go ahead, Mitch.
Here I am. Okay, just a couple comments. Isn't the protection on debit cards different than on credit cards?
No, that's a misconception. Granted, there are two separate laws, one referring to bank accounts and one referring to credit cards, but you have protection, pretty much the same protection on both of them, that you are not liable for fraudulent transactions as long as you report it in the time required. Now, for the credit cards, you have 60 days from the date of the statement with the fraudulent transaction. So if you notify the credit card company on the 61st day, too bad, it's your loss. They're not going to do anything about it. Right. So it has to be within the 60 days. On the banking side, it can be 30 to 60 days, but the financial institutions can mandate what is the amount of time to report fraudulent transactions. Most of them is 30. So make sure when you get your account updates, you know, they used to put those little inserts in with your bank statement. Most people just throw them away and never read them. There was one bank a few years ago where they actually changed the reporting time down to 15 days. And someone read that insert, realized it, took it to the internet. There was a lot of backlash. So the bank then changed it and made it 30 days again. So to find out from your bank how long you have to report a fraudulent transaction, ask them, how many days do you have? But you still are protected. You have zero liability as long as you report it within that time frame. There is some misconception, and I see, and this drives me crazy. This is why I'm going to be starting a podcast, because there's so much misinformation out there. This so-called identity theft expert on LinkedIn last week did this ridiculous little cutesy video about, oh, when to use a debit card and when to use a credit card. And she's claiming to be reading the federal law saying that you have more rights under a credit card than you do under a debit card. But some of the things that she was reading, she doesn't understand how to read the laws because she was telling people the wrong thing. So she was saying, oh, well, if you report it within, more than 2 days, you have $50 liability. If you report it afterwards, you have, $500 liability. What she was referring to is if your card is lost or stolen. And this is a difference with the credit cards. If your credit card is lost or stolen, the clock starts ticking based on when you report it to the credit card company. So the law says is if you report it to the credit card company within 2 days of realizing it's been lost or stolen, you have zero liability. If you wait till about 10 days, your liability can go up to about $50. And if you wait, longer, it can increase all the way to $500, all the way to unlimited. So when you contact your credit card company and you report fraudulent charges, they ask you, do you have your card? Did you lose your card? If you say, well, I don't know, it's usually in my wallet, or I don't know the last time I saw it, they're going to default to that little clause in the law. So you always want to make sure you tell them, yes, I have my card. And that way you have the federal protection. I'm not telling you to lie. If you lost it, you lost it. That's different. But that's why they ask you that question. But no, there really is. The only difference between a debit and a credit card initially is whose money gets stolen. If you're using a debit card, that's money that comes right out of your bank account, and you have to wait for it to be refunded or put back into your account. The banks can take up to 90 days to do that. If you're using a straight credit card, it's the credit card company's money who gets stolen. And it's a debt that just gets written off or removed because it was never your debt in the first place. But as far as using a debit or credit card, they're both about the same. Just depends on, whose money do you want to get stolen first.
Just one other comment. I have more credit cards than probably most people should ever have. And I have those fraud alerts or text message alerts on every one. And all of them but one, which is Bank of America, and that's my primary bank, and I don't even use their card anymore because I set it up on there, notify me immediately. I'll get a text 24 hours later when I spend something. With all of my other cards, when I go to the gas station, before I get the card in my pocket, I get a text message, you just spent $38 at, well, now it's like $15 for gas at 7-Eleven. And I complained and complained to Bank of America, and they know it's a problem. But I don't use their card because of that. And all my other ones, I get immediate notification, and the limit I have is very small, $10. Anything over $10, I get an immediate text on any one of my cards.
Yeah, and another thing you can do is, if you have a bunch of credit cards and you're not using them, cancel them. That's less to have to be responsible for trying to manage. Now, you're probably thinking, but if I cancel my card, then my credit score is going to dip. Yes, only temporarily. But if you're not going to be applying for any new credit, who cares? Who cares? That's the only people who care about your credit score are creditors who you're trying to get a debt from. That's it. So, if you have all these extra credit cards and you're not using them and you don't want to have to worry about managing them or somebody getting a hold of it, just cancel them. It's real easy. And also on the credit report, it will say closed by consumer, which is better than closed by creditor. So it's another option you can do. I'm not telling you what to do. Just putting that out there that is an option. If you don't want to have to worry about managing the cards, you can do that.
Yeah, I have closed a few, and
Okay.
I haven't for various reasons, but
Mitch, we
okay,
need to
thank
move
you.
on.
You're welcome.
All right, Linda, you are next.
Yes, I just had a question about Credit Karma. My CPA had recommended that several years ago.
Yeah. Why did the CPA recommend it? Was it to get your credit report or to try to help build up credit? What was the purpose?
Basically to get the credit report. And I gave up on the big three because when I moved and when I got divorced, they were asking me questions to verify my identity that I didn't have answers to.
Okay. So Credit Karma. Your CPA is like a lot of other people that are kind of misinformed. If you want to get your credit reports, the only one to go to is annualcreditreport.com. That's where you can get it, with the big three. For Innovis and NCTUE, you have to go to them directly. The issue with Credit Karma, there's nothing illegal. It's just slightly deceptive. When you go to Credit Karma, they're using your one free credit report that you're entitled to receive every 12 months from each credit bureau. That's federal law, okay? But when you go through Credit Karma, you are agreeing to allow them to share your information with their partners. Who are their partners? The credit card companies. you are going to be inundated with pre-approved credit offers and other types of things. So you have to look at the terms of service and privacy policies. I know nobody looks at those things. We just click, yeah, I read it, and you've never looked at it. Look at them. You don't have to read line by line. Just look for what do we collect and how do we use it. Look for those two things. And it might be worded a little different, but you kind of get the gist of it. And if you look at Credit Karma, it says that we do not sell your information, but we share it with our partners. Well, Credit Karma, because everything they give away pretty much is free, right? So how do they make money? It's pay to play. In order for a partner to be a partner, they have to pay a fee to Credit Karma. That's how they can say, we don't sell your information, we share it with our partners. Also, a few years ago, I mentioned the same thing when I gave a presentation, and a woman emailed me later on saying, my son works for Credit Karma and he said everything you said was a lie. And I said, okay, great, let me go look it up. Maybe they changed their policies. And I went and looked it up, and not only was I still correct, meaning everything I'd said was correct, and I copied everything and sent it to her so she had it black and white, but also they had added a clause in saying, even if you deleted your account, they still kept your information for eternity.
Wow.
So be very careful. Yeah. I'm sure everyone's thinking the same thing you just said. But you know, why bother going through those third parties when you can go direct and just go to annualcreditreport.com or direct to the bureaus? Now, if you're having trouble with the bureaus, like you said, it could have been because you were recently divorced and you recently moved, so you're trying to put in your address and some of the questions they're asking are not true, or you might not be actually correct. If you still have difficulties, let me know. I'll work with you to try to help you get the reports. I'm not going to charge you for it. It could just be that there's a little glitch or something wasn't answered the right way. So when you go to annualcreditreport.com, you can try to get all three reports, or all reports from all three of the main bureaus. And if you don't get the first one, try to get the second one. If you can't get that, try to get the third one, because all you need is at least one, and then you can use that one to help you answer questions for the other two. So it's a little trick there. But if you need help, let me know. I'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, because they sent me all this information to fill out, and I sent it in, and then I also had to do a phone call, and I got nowhere. So basically I gave up, and that was a while ago, because I used to do the free credit report for each one. You know, I spread it out over the year. So anyway, okay. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, reach out to me, and I'll help you with that, because it could just be that there was some little glitch, and we'll, you know, try to find a workaround to help you with that. Now, it is taking a little bit extra time, so we might want to table this until after everything kind of gets back to whatever normal is going to be, because they're all, again, still on skeleton crews. So trying to get a human at these bureaus right now, it's impossible. But once they start getting people back to work again and they're no longer skeleton crews, give me a call and I'll help you through it.
Great. Thanks, Carrie.
Sure, you're welcome.
Carrie, do you have time to continue on?
Yes, I can go until about 1 o'clock, and then I have to get on another call. So I can do about another 15 minutes here.
Sheila, are you going to cover the questions that came in by chat?
Yes. Yes, I have two questions here about apps that people use for, I guess, credit cards or transactions. One is Mint and one is YNAB. Do you have any comment on either of those, Carrie?
So for any app that you're using, again, terms of service, privacy policies, you want to know who has access to what and what information they're harvesting and what they're doing, because all those they're like a third-party aggregator. So instead of you having to go to multiple individual places, they put it all together. Convenience and privacy don't live in the same space. The more you have of one, the less you have of the other, okay? So you got to watch out. So with some of these things, I'm not saying that there's anything bad, but by you doing that, could you be putting yourself at a greater risk? So correct me if I'm wrong, but Mint allows you to access all of your financial accounts, and you can just have one portal where you can look at them. Convenience, right? Well, the risk is, what if that one account gets hacked? Now the bad guy knows where you have all of your accounts and has all of your account information. Whereas if you would do the one-to-one and just download the apps for each financial institution and do them one by one, if one gets hacked, you don't get access to the other ones directly. So again, user beware. I'm not saying that these are bad things to do, but the more convenient something is for you, the less security or privacy you're going to have, because those are more people that are involved in the process. So sometimes that one-to-one is much better. It's not as convenient. But if it's easy for you, it's easy for the bad guys. So just kind of keep that in mind. But again, look at those terms of service and privacy policies. That's another thing we talk about with, with Zoom conferencing. One of the things they got in trouble for is that they allowed you to single sign on with Facebook. So if you had a Facebook account, you could just sign on through your Facebook credentials and that was it. Never, 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 never use single sign on through another app. Why? Because when you do that, you're allowing the other app to have access to your information. And that's exactly what Facebook did through Zoom. And everybody was all upset going, oh my gosh, they violated my privacy. Well, why are you logging it through Facebook? Just create a unique login for Zoom. So again, privacy, convenience, you got to watch out for that. I never do a single sign on, everything I use, log in with Facebook, log in with Google, log in with this. I don't do any of that. I create unique usernames and passwords for every account.
All right, Lisa, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hi. I use YNAB, and you have an option to, I've used Mint before, you do pay for it, but you can link your accounts or do it manually and keep them unlinked. That's what I do. So none of that information is directly out there. A lot of people that don't understand YNAB, it does take a learning curve, but right from the beginning, I did it without linking an account, any of my accounts, because it's so much like the old bookkeeping. I used to do it all manually, like the Phoenicians used to do way long time ago when they invented it. So you don't have to link the accounts like you do with Mint.
Okay, yeah, and again, I'm not familiar with a lot of these because there's so many of them out there, but those are things to look for. You want to have as many partitions as possible, as many barriers, because again, it's going to be harder for a bad guy to get access to everything if they have to jump through all these hoops. So that's good to know that you can do it unlinked.
Yeah, and YNAB stands for you need a budget, and there is an annual fee, just so everybody knows.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this.
Yes.
Okay, I got one from the chat. Conrad is asking, can you please repeat what you said about Collier County registration and such things as quit claim deeds? How do I do it?
So you go to collierclerk.com. That's the website for the Collier County Clerk's office. And on the homepage, and I don't remember exactly where it is, I think it's like midway on the left side somewhere, but you can sign up to receive notifications from the clerk's office if there are any changes to a public record in Collier County with your name on it. And if your name is different ways, so, if your name is Robert and you go by Bob, you can register both Robert and Bob. I think that if I remember correctly, I think you can register up to 3 different names or 3 different ways. And if there's any changes to that public record, the clerk of court's office is going to send you an email notification saying, did you do this? So it's a great tool. I forget the name of it. It's a brand new program that they just launched. I want to say, I think it was maybe in January or February. So, Crystal Kinzer, our clerk, who's just starting to get the word out. She was doing a lot of speaking, and of course, Corona came around. So she hasn't been able to share the word as much as she wanted to, but it's all right on the homepage of the clerk of court's website.
Okay, Thomas, go ahead.
Is it safe to allow Quicken to download directly from your bank the transactions?
Well, first of all, you will never hear me say anything is safe. Everything has risks. Is it really, it's all about what risks are you willing to accept. Everything has risks. Again, a business can use QuickBooks and they can do the same thing to try to download. There's all different, portals that you can use to download and import content. There is a vulnerability going from point A to point B, but I'm sure that Quicken and QuickBooks and all of these financial companies, they try to put as much security as possible. I would find out, what sort of encryption they use during that portal, that tunnel, trying to get it from your bank account into your Quicken. So I would look at Quicken and find out what kind of security they have during that portal. But again, it's all privacy and convenience. It's all about, what you're willing to do. There are some things that I do. I know that there are risks involved. I'm willing to accept those risks just because I want to have that convenience, and other things I won't do. So again, if you choose to do that, that's up to you. But I would, look at Quicken, go to their website, and just, kind of see what extra security they have there to protect you.
Everything's encrypted.
Okay. It's encryption in transit?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then, it should be okay. Again, I'll never say anything's 100% safe because there's always new stuff coming out. But again, as long as you're looking at all your accounts and you're monitoring everything, looking at the statements, even though you're doing the direct import and you're still looking at the statements, make sure there's nothing missed, then that's fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that was really our last question. Any last one before Carrie has to leave?
Somebody's raising their hand and waving it. That looks like Rachel Dunning.
Raquel?
Can you unmute
her? Raquel is unmuted.
Thank you. I just wanted to share with you, everybody, the fact that the USPS, you want to be very careful when you go online, because 2 days ago, I went online to request an extension of my forwarding mail from the north to Florida. And I didn't realize that that was not although it said USPS, it was not the official one. And I ended up with a charge of $59.95 on my Visa card, which immediately was reported to me on my iPhone. So, however, when I tried to pay, I didn't even know that there was a charge from $59. So when I tried to pay, the card was rejected. So I called Visa and he says, did you make this charge? And I said, I sure didn't. So what I'm just trying to say is, if you do use the online USPS, be very careful that you go to the official website and not another one, because obviously my card was compromised. And furthermore, like the speaker was saying, Visa, which was with the bank, immediately offered to cancel my card and send me a new one. And I said, definitely. And I got my card less than 24 hours later with a new number. So I just wanted to share that information with the group.
Thank you very much.
You need to look at the URL to verify that that's actually the United States Postal Service's website. Like I said before, bad guys can pay for SSL certificates, and that green check and the locked padlock, all that is the person who owns that website, they purchased an SSL certificate for the website. That just means the traffic on the website's encrypted. It doesn't mean that it's been verified. It doesn't mean it's not a scam site. The bad guys can buy SSL certificates and have green check marks and padlocks just like any other website can. So don't use that. A lot of times too, if you just do a Google search, the top 3 to 5 results are usually paid ads. And you can see it because right on the left side, it'll say ad, usually right after the check mark there. So look at the URL before you decide to click on which, which one. And like I said, in the tip sheet, and I'll also send over the correct website, because I'm drawing a blank. I know it's USPS, either .com or .gov. I'm drawing a blank right now because some of them use gov and some of them use com. So I'll make sure and get that over to you all. That way you'll have that one. So if you want to set up for the online account with the Postal Service and also informed delivery. So we'll make sure and get you to the right spot there.
I have a quick question from Cynthia, and this may be a mute question. So if you have Quicken or Mint and you want to close the account, how do you get all the info back?
Oh, that's a good question. So before you use these services, again, terms of service, privacy policies, you need to read the section about what happens if I cancel my account, or what happens if I shut down my service. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll go into these services if I'm using, especially if I'm just trying something out, and I'll upload some information. If I don't like it, then I go in and I delete everything out before I cancel the account. You know, you always want to see if you can export, if you can download. Some of them will allow you to do it, some of them won't. So before you start paying for or using a service, you need to consider your exit strategy. You know, what are you going to do if you don't want to use them anymore? How do you get your content out? And do they still keep copies of your content? Can you delete the content? How long do they hold it? Again, you're going to have to talk, you know, find out from these companies directly. I would go to their websites and usually look at the terms of service and privacy policies, and you should have the information there.
All right, Lisa, do you have one last quick question?
Yeah, it's quick. Can you hear me okay still?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people here use 1Password and all of that. And I've always used my own, you know, just individual passwords because I'm reticent to do that. I'm kind of hoping something else comes out there that, you know, will eliminate passwords. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but what are your thoughts on 1Password?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different places that you can do for passwords. Before I answer that, I just went online and double checked. So for the Postal Service, it's USPS.com. This one is a .com. So I just went in, that is the official website. But again, getting back to passwords, you know, if you want to write them down paper and pencil, I don't have a problem with that. Just hide it. That does not mean underneath your keyboard. That does not mean, you know, on a sticky note, you know, around your computer.
I don't like them, and I change them, you know.
Yeah, the thing with passwords, they need to be a minimum of, it used to be 12, now we're saying 14 characters.
Right.
So don't think of it as a password, it is a passphrase. So use a sentence, use a line from your favorite song, movie, book. You know, you want to make sure the longer they are, the stronger they are. But if you want to have paper and pencil, fine, write it down, just hide it. You know, don't put it somewhere, it would be pretty obvious. If you want to, you know, use one of these password manager programs, you know, that's up to you, but make sure that it has encryption at rest and encryption at transit, because that protects your passwords while they're stored on their server and while you're uploading and downloading them. So look for those two things. Also, if it's free, you got to be careful, because how do these companies make money? By giving away apps for free. They're making money somehow, and usually it's selling or sharing information. Also, look at the country of origin. Who created it? Where, you know, where is this app coming from? And if it's a brand new app and there's hardly any reviews, I wouldn't give them my sensitive information. I mean, I know that stinks for a startup company, but still, I want to know other people that have used it and trusted it. And you can also search by the name of the app and data breach or breach after, and see if they've had any issues. Actually, we're finding that the ones who have been breached are now the most secure, because they've, you know, been raked over the coals, and now they got their act together. So, you know, if you want to use one of these, that's fine. I just do not recommend something like a Word document or a spreadsheet to save on your computer, because we're finding there's too many vulnerabilities for these programs. If you do insist on doing that, do not call the file my passwords. Because, yeah, when your computer gets hacked, they're going to do a quick little search of your computer for the word password, and it's going to take them right to it. So if you are going to use something like a Word document or a spreadsheet, encrypt that file. Don't just password protect it, encrypt it. And if you don't know how to do it, there are all kinds of tutorials you can go to online that'll walk you through, or I'm sure there's enough, you know, technically savvy people in your group who can help you through that. But yeah, passwords, and they need to be unique. Don't do password recycling. Because we're finding there's that sextortion email going around, and it has an old password at the top of it, and it says, here's proof that I'm in your computer. I've seen what what websites you go to and what you do in front of your computer, and I have video evidence of it, and I'm going to, you know, exploit you, and you have to pay me in Bitcoin. And everybody panics because they see one of their old passwords in there, and especially if you're password recycling, it could be still a current one. So that's why you want to make sure they're new, unique passwords, especially for your sensitive accounts, bank account, brokerage accounts, utilities accounts, mobile phone accounts. You know, anything that you don't want on a billboard on I-75, unique passwords.
Thank you.
All right, and I have got to scoot. So thank you all for having me back. You're my favorite group. I love coming and talking to you guys. And, you know, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email or give me a call. Email's the best way, because as you can tell, I don't always have the ability to answer my phone because I'm doing a lot of video conferencing lately. And if you're interested, sign up for our free 30-day privacy challenge. It's griffinforceacademy.com. And thanks again and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Thank you.